Good afternoon and welcome to yet another episode of Mr. Long Island's Search for Truth and Beauty. My name is Michael Watt, aka Mr. Long Island, and our guests this week are Teisha Green and Mark Klein from the Albanese organization. We're going to talk about the Wyandanch Rising, which is, in my humble opinion, a very exciting project and very key to the future of Long Island. So we look forward to discussing that. And the Mr. Long Island Search for Truth and Beauty, each week we either discuss issues that need to be discussed about the future of Long Island, what we need to do to ensure Long Island's vitality, and that's the truth part. And the beauty part is highlighting things that really make Long Island special, things and people and places. And once again this week we have a combination of both, because Wyandanch Rising addresses a very important issue facing Long Island. But it's also, there's a beauty part in it, and that the work that the Albanese organization does is always spectacular. So we're very excited about that. But each week we also start off talking about pizza, very briefly. And the reason for that is, as diverse as Long Island is, as spread out as Long Island is, 126 different school districts, the one thing every town in Long Island has in common is a pizza place. And Long Islanders will drive past pizza places if they know they can get really good pizza somewhere else, which I do all the time. So we're amassing this really kick-ass database of great pizza places on Long Island. So we're going to ask you, what's your favorite pizza place? And the criteria is, if you had friends coming in from out of town, where would you bring them? Go ahead, Teisha.
My favorite place is Garden City Pizza.
Okay.
They have every single phone number, cell, home, office, everything at their disposal. I love specifically their grilled chicken Caesar pizza.
Okay.
I will be 20, 30 minutes away. If I'm craving it, I will go there specifically to get it.
And where is it? Obviously it's in Garden City.
It's in Garden City on Franklin Avenue.
Very good. And Mark?
And that actually happens to be where our main office is. And incidentally, my favorite pizza place is in Garden City as well, Grimaldi's.
Okay.
It's a very, very difficult choice with pizza, because I think Long Island has excellent pizza, some of the best probably in the country. And but I like the pepperoni slice as my favorite from Grimaldi's in Garden City, right on Franklin Avenue.
Very good. So now we have, next time we're in Garden City, got two places. Hopefully I'll hit them both in the not so distant future. So that's great. Thank you for adding to our collection. We're here to talk about Wyandanch Rising, and really it's about vibrant downtowns. And it's one thing Long Island does not have. We have a lot of great things. We don't, well, I shouldn't say that. We do have some vibrant downtowns. We need more of them.
Correct.
And the idea is, young people in particular, you want to be part of a vibrant, festive environment. They're not quite ready for the single-family home that maybe their parents were ready to move into right away. And they just kind of want to experience that nightlife and sense of immediacy or whatever it is that a downtown has to offer. And I think Wyandanch Rising is looking to address that. So why don't you walk us through a little bit about what it is, where it is, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. So what we have is Wyandanch Village.
Okay.
And this was something that was brought about from the residents of Wyandanch over 10 years ago. They wanted a walkable, sustainable community that featured the downtown that you were just speaking about.
Okay.
That would include shops and retail and just open spaces where you can just, sit around and enjoy the good weather, have a coffee, or, maybe even have an outdoor entertainment venue. So over 10 years ago, they decided they'll come together as a community to put this process together with their elected officials, brought together what's called now Wyandanch Rising.
Okay.
And the town of Babylon put together a RFP, which means that they were seeking a developer, and an Albanese organization is that developer that was selected to help take that dream, that vision, and make it a reality. And so hence today, we're at Wyandanch Village, where we're actually underway constructing our first building, which is including 91 units,
Okay.
which has a mix of 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedrooms, with retail at the bottom.
And the ultimate goal is to create a walkable community. That's a great phrase, because that's
Right.
one of my favorite things to do is really to just park your car and walk around. And then I was just doing it last week, and unfortunately I was doing it in Delray, Florida, walking around saying, man, I wish we had this on Long Island. And we do have it in a couple places. You have very vibrant downtowns of Huntington, Rockville Center.
Right.
I live in Babylon Village, and you have a decent nightlife there. But we can certainly use more. Would you say that's the case, Mark? Or?
Absolutely. One of the key components of Wyandanch, not only being a walkable community, but transit-oriented is a key feature, being adjacent to the Long Island Railroad, and giving that ability to reduce urban sprawl and having a densely developed community. Our public partners, the town of Babylon, led by Richard Schaefer and formerly by Steve Ballone, who's now at the county, as county executive, had leveraged state, federal, and other agency funds to make improvements available to the neighborhood in Wyandanch, such as a development of a new sewer system, new roadways, which enabled that density in the community. And that's been a key feature to Wyandanch, was the ability to develop densely around the Long Island Railroad. And I agree with you. I think that that those type of downtowns are ultimately the type of neighborhoods that we're looking to promote in Long Island to attract people to stay here in Long Island.
Sometimes I forget that not everybody is as well versed in Long Island. Wyandanch is where?
Well, it's in Suffolk County, so it's about 50. If you use Manhattan as a starting point, it's about 55 minutes or even 50 minutes on the train ride from the LIRR. It's really like literally in the heart of Long Island itself, but it's in Suffolk County, not too far from, let's say, Deer Park.
Well, it's also not too far from the Route 110 corridor.
Correct.
And
It's
a
only 5 minutes.
comfortable commute to the Hauppauge Industrial Park, which I want to get back to. But Teisha, you came up with something, you mentioned something that I think is really key. And then Mark, you kind of expanded on it a little bit. The residents wanted this. And they reached out to their other stakeholders. They reached out to their elected officials,
Right.
and the elected officials got creative. And I know, Steve Malone has moved on to county executive, but this is also near and dear to his heart. And they got creative, and that bugaboo of sewers was an initial problem, and they worked something out. Can you talk to us a little bit about that process and how important it is that the residents work with the elected officials who work with the developers and everybody working together?
It's an extremely critical process because there's other towns that have the same wants as Wyandanch to have a transformative change within their community. But because the residents got together with the elected officials who saw the need, that's why it came together. It's this a unique public-private partnership that's been happening. That's why it's been thriving in the way that it has.
Well, historically, if there was, a developer would come in, buy 100 acres of property and put as many houses as he could. Let's say, now there's one per acre, and put 100 houses on that acre. And that's really how the suburban sprawl happened, because that's what the market wanted. Now the market being the 22 to 35, 40-year-olds is saying we don't necessarily want that single-family home yet.
Right.
So how is that going? Are the people reaching out? What's been the response so far to Wyandanch Rising?
It's been a really good positive response, especially from the residents of Wyandanch, because you have to remember what we created was based upon that visioning process they had asked for 10 years ago. So with us, when we were creating Wyandanch Village, which includes the 2 apartment buildings, we were very cautious to make sure that we were including residences that were going to keep younger people on Long Island, because there is such a brain drain, as it's called, where people are leaving because they can't, as you said, they can't afford necessarily the one-family home coming out of college, but they still need something that's close by to family and friends from where they grew up.
And it's not necessarily affordability, although that's obviously a component. A lot of these young people moving to Brooklyn, which is certainly, I would
Sure.
not call Brooklyn affordable. It's more of a lifestyle.
True.
It's something that Long Island's never really done a good job of offering. Can you tell us a little bit about what kind of lifestyle would be going on at Wyandanch Rising?
Well, in terms of the benefits within the residences, we have, they're very high end for more affordable type homes.
Okay.
We have open plan kitchens throughout the units. There's spacious layouts for studios, as Teisha mentioned, studios, 1, 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms, and the benefits are wide. There's granite countertops, Energy Star appliances. We're actually going for LEED certification and Energy Star certification, so we have more efficient light fixtures, more efficient appliances than a typical building. The ability to walk to shops nearby and restaurants that will be located within the buildings, public parks that are part of the development. And so those are just some of, Teisha, maybe you want to add some of the benefits of the community.
Well, and then also too, we're also looking at different retail uses that would be of interest to the future residents there. So as of right now, one of the things in the visioning process is that they were hoping to have restaurants where you can have nice, sit-down dinners, or even, possible like a music venues. But they're all still things that are still being worked
Well,
on.
the market will take care of that.
Exactly.
I mean, if you have enough people living there, and what is ultimately the goal? How many people do you expect to or hope to see living there at some point?
Well, we have 177 residences or units if available. So, if you assume that there's 1 per unit, there's like
Okay.
177 for that. But since we have 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, more than
You
likely
could have
be
multiple occupants per.
Right.
Exactly.
But so you have a critical mass of people living together, and then obviously if you have those people there, you can even reach out to them and say, well, what kind of stores would you like to see? You know, I had a friend of mine opened a barbecue business in the town, and it flopped. And then she said, "Geez, if I'd known what kind of business they want to have open, I'm not an idiot." You know, so if you have that built-in critical mass, you can reach out to them and find out what they're looking for. I think that would really lend itself more towards giving the people what they want instead of trying to guess.
Well, I mean, that's true, but then we're also knowing that there's critical services that are needed within almost any community, especially one that's right near a train station.
Right.
So we want to, also be conscious of having to look at those uses as well. You know, things such as cleaners, coffee shops, or things of that nature.
Well, and because I know you had the ribbon cutting or launch or whatever, groundbreaking, probably the hottest day of the last 20 years. But the MTA had a big presence there.
Yes.
And, you talk about the train station. Right now, I think it's a 50-minute trip, but you have enough people living there, all of a sudden you start seeing a couple of expresses. Is that feasible, you think, or what? Express trains into Manhattan.
There has been talk about expanding the Long Island Railroad for a future express train into Manhattan.
Well, if the market's
A
there,
second,
if there's
yeah.
enough people,
There's already been some discussion about that. Yeah.
And
We
you
don't-
have, Wyandanch also isn't that far from downtown Farmingdale. And I know they just got a couple of big grants or some kind of program kicked off. So now you're starting to see little seeds of downtown activity going along.
throughout Long Island.
Yeah. What kind of feedback are you getting? How excited are people about Wyandanch Rising?
People, as I mentioned, people are very excited. We have a Facebook page where a lot of times where we make posts about different developments that's going on at Wyandanch Village, and a lot of times people are giving us feedback saying they're excited, they can't wait to see it, they want to see, they're asking us to show more if possible. So, and then we also have different articles that are appearing in Newsday where people also make comments that they would like to see more information.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the feedback's been very positive in regards to wanting to see more. Can't believe that this is actually happening after the 10 years when they saw, had this dream, and now it's becoming more of a reality.
Well, I happened to be driving past, and I was kind of jolted, because you're building. I was like, wow, we talk so much Long Island without actually seeing the building. What's the time frame? When do people start moving in?
Well, for our first building, we hope to have occupancy for later this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're well underway.
Wow.
And that first building is 91 residential units. It has ground floor retail space. The second building is 86 units, residential units, and ground floor retail space as well. And that building is expected to be completed next year, the summer of next year.
And it's walking distance from the Wyandanch train station?
Yes, which
Yes.
is actually being relocated, redesigned, and reconstructed to be more central within the community, as well as adding a public park, as I mentioned previously, between the two buildings. So that'll all be part of the overall Wyandanch Village.
Have you gotten any reactions, or have things come up that you didn't necessarily expect? Like, geez, I never thought of that, or yeah, we could do that.
I mean, with anything as unique as this venture, I mean, there's been some, unique, we'll say, issues that come up, especially because it's a public-private partnership. So in regards to having the town having to actually buy the land initially for us to even develop on, as you had mentioned earlier in the conversation, usually the developer has to do that part of the process.
Right.
But having the town do that part of the process, it actually made it easier for us to concentrate primarily on focusing on doing the building. As far as any unique other features, nothing I can think of right off the top
We've
of my
actually,
head.
it's been a great process to work with the town of Babylon as our public partner. It is a public-private partnership in the true sense of the concept. We've in the construction of the project right now, we employ several talented members of the Wyandanch community, and that's been helped facilitated by the town of Babylon. And so Albanese has directly employed members of Wyandanch, and so have our subcontractors who are building the project.
Well, let's talk about a little bit about why this is so important to the future of Long Island. Now, you made mention earlier of the brain drain, and I always got a kick. There was a movie called Office Space,
Yes.
100 years ago, and even when I was watching it, the kid leaves his crappy little job and his crappy little car, and he goes to his crappy little apartment. But I remember watching, go, man, I would love to have had that crappy little apartment. Not that you guys are building crappy apartments, but it made me realize there's no place, you know, you get back from school, and you really don't want to live with your parents any longer than you have to, and where do you go? And then worse, where do you go to have fun afterwards? You know, because you really don't want to be driving around from nightclub to nightclub, or, you know, in the old days in school, you just kind of, you know, went down the campus or you're in a downtown area. So are we trying to create that bridge between the college life and maybe a professional life?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my own personal experience, I lived in Manhattan for several years, and when I was moving back to Long Island where I grew up, one of the main challenges was to find quality housing, you know, within a good price range, and that was a deterrent to moving back to Long Island for some time. But finally, you know, I chose a location, and but if, you know, Wyandanch addresses that need and creates that model for, you know, people that are moving, you know, that are young professionals, but also people of all ages that need quality homes and rental. You know, the other key element of Wyandanch, which needed addresses in Long Island, is we actually have a relatively low rental housing stock when compared to other areas. Long Island's said to have about 20% of its overall housing stock to be rental, whereas other areas have been compared at around 40%.
Right. Yeah. So, even like Westchester, just on the other side of it. You brought up something I think is fascinating, because again, Manhattan, not exactly affordable, but it's something you have to get out of your system a little bit. But you also were looking to come back. See, now we're losing young people, but I think they still, you know, if they had their druthers, they would come back. And I also have it, this is my own personal theory, that if you fed young people truth serum, you know, they talk about wanting to live in a city, but if you presented them a downtown vibrant atmosphere without the hassles of living in the city, a majority of them might welcome that. And I think that's kind of what we're looking to do here.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about its proximity to, we rattled off a couple of employment centers. You got Route 110, which is at one point was the economic spine of Long Island. You have the Hauppauge Industrial Park, which is the second largest industrial park in the country. It's the largest east of the Mississippi. So I told you, it's the key to useless information. And it's really not, you could even, you know, Stony Brook, you know, it's not that out of the realm of possibility of commuting that back and forth there. I spent a lot of time working with small businesses on Long Island, and their primary complaint, their concern, was they can't stay if they can't grow, and they can't grow if they don't have the backbench, the talent coming up through the pipeline. And that's where the brain drain problems come into play. You know, where are these people going to live? You know, you could work for me, you could be doing the greatest job in the world, and I want to pay you as much as I can, but you're 28 years old, you want to buy a house, and if the starting house is 400 grand, you know, sayonara, you know.
Exactly.
Does the Wyandanch Rising, the Wyandanch Villages, does that help attract that, or what's the feeling there?
Well, with Wyandanch Village, we have a mix of different income types for the apartment. So that's where we are hoping to get a range of different people with workforce housing. So what that means is that, like, our apartments start at $985 and go upwards, you know, to different price ranges. But that's where we're hoping, with having the affordable housing, especially getting funding from New York State, it'll give the ability to have an apartment for somebody, like you said, who just came out of college, or somebody who's in the workforce who can't necessarily afford the single family home, but still have a nice place to live, you know, when they come out of school or come out of work.
You know, one of the issues, as you know, I run an organization called Links. I don't run it, I'm the executive director, but it's an association for young professionals. And one of the things that I thought really inspired me in our discussions that we had with these young professionals was how important diversity was to them. The group itself is very diverse, and it's important to them the apartment or the living areas that they live be diverse, which is unfortunately not Long Island's history. How important is Wyandanch Rising to that cause of really bringing more diversity to the region?
I wouldn't say it's like one of our main focus goals, but it could be one of those secondary or another goal that happens. So for us, I mean, it was just having a different mix of incomes come through, and everybody's just there to be part of a community. Not that one knows what one's paying for their apartment, but just to be in an area where you have good housing and you like the area and community that you're living in, as far as like the shops that are available in the walkable community.
But you can see, though, where you get people coming together from all around the island, all of a sudden
Right.
it gets a little more interesting, a little more dynamic.
Exactly. Well, which is why Wyandanch Village is sort of a new paradigm, if you will, for
Right.
having to have, being close to the train station, having this walkable community, and
And the
having
Albanese
residents-
organization, they've been around forever. They've done
Over
projects
60 years.
over 60 years. Their track record, and I think this is important because for better or for worse, certain developers or development community maybe doesn't have the best reputation, and some of it is deserved. But the Albanese organization, Mark, why don't you talk to us a little bit about the Albanese organization, how involved they are in the local community.
Sure, yeah. The Albanese organization's been, like I said, a full service real estate firm that's been in business for over 60 years. And our main goal is to enhance the communities in which we're located, which we're developing. We act as developers, property owners, and managers. And one of our key goals is to get very involved in the communities, like we're doing in Wyandanch Village right now, to reach out to the members of the community, to work with the town of Babylon, for example, and bringing Wyandanch individuals, giving them the ability to work on the project. We work closely with the town of Babylon on various initiatives. On our other projects, we've done the same, and we look to get as involved as we can in the communities, and yeah, that's a key feature for us at Albanese.
Well, it's a true family-run organization, and I mention that because it's a family that takes a lot of pride in its legacy, and the work that they do in other projects on the island and in the city
And in Manhattan, yeah.
has that mark of quality that they want to always be associated with, and they're very involved in the local community. So that tells you that what they're going to build is quality product. And I would imagine, I would hope that their hope is that this works here and encourages other downtowns to kind of embrace.
And that's exactly it. We hope that this model with Wyandanch Village will be used as an example for other developers in Long Island, and that we can help mitigate what we've talked about, the brain drain, and also people moving out of Long Island, the ability to help communities that have been underdeveloped or underserved.
Well, we're very much a Me Too community, and people are seeing what's going on in Patchogue, and that's taken a long time, and that's really the result of one man's passion, that Mayor Pontieri. He said, not on my watch, this thing is not going under. And the people look into Patchogue and say, we want that, and now you're seeing Farmingdale, and hopefully someday you'll see Hicksville and a bunch of other downtowns that could use some revitalization. Here you're kind of creating a downtown from scratch. I mean, there really wasn't a downtown per se, downtown Wyandanch, is that correct?
Correct.
So you're taking what the people wanted,
Right.
and you're bringing it to them, which is a novelty for Long Island, but I hope we get used to that.
Right.
Is there a website that people can go to and kind of noodle around and look for more information?
Yes, it definitely is a website. Our website is wyandanchvillage.com.
Wyandanchvillage.com. Terrific. And people moving in this year, you say?
Yes, towards the end of this year.
Okay, but
Weather
there's
permitting.
more construction going on, so they can kind of look in and see what they want to, what works for them, and they can go to the website and find out what they need.
Exactly, or
Terrific.
contact us as well.
And the really, to me, really encouraging part is that you took what the people wanted and you worked with the elected officials, and you lose a lot of that mishigash. I should know better than try to go. The reason why some projects takes 10, 15 years is because now, instead of just beating each other over the head, you say, hey, this is what we want. How do we solve the challenges? So
Exactly.
I'm very excited about the project. I really appreciate you coming in and walking us through it a little bit. I wish you guys the best of luck.
Thank you.
And I know
Thank you.
how
It's a
key it
pleasure.
is to Long Island, so kudos to the Albanese organization for you to make such a great thing happen. This has been another episode of Mr. Long Island's Search for Truth and Beauty. My name is Michael Watt, aka Mr. Long Island. Our guests this week have been Teisha Green and Mark Klein from the Albanese organization discussing a Wyandanch Rising. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon.